Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich, founder and CEO of Massolutions, the world's only no bullshit marketing firm. Today, I'm excited to have a guest who has a remarkable story that you're going to love to hear, a successful story about growing a business, fighting through all kinds of adversity, and living his dream with his brother. It's Anthony Vennare, the CEO of Fitt. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
We've talked a little bit, and of course I researched you, and I've been a part of the company, and then I've gone to the website a number of times over the years. I get a couple of the newsletters, but let's start off the way that I start all the shows with the guests is I just basically say, tell me about your career path, your journey. So talk about what your first job was, how you started out, and I'll interject and interrupt when I think there's something that the audience would love to hear more about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's kind of a different career path. I was not a good student in school. I 2.0, barely graduated, was not. My older brother, who was also my business partner, 4.0 student, all-star. So no one in my family liked that I was not following in his footsteps. But I graduated high school, and when I did, I enlisted in the Marines. So my goal was to join the Marines. I actually wanted to go through the platoon leadership courses where you go and become a Marine, and then you become an officer. And I actually left for boot camp, and while I was away, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. So kind of turned my career of 20 years in the Marines upside down. And in between that, I played football in high school, and I was always into fitness, and actually became a sort of a personal trainer. And in the Marines, I got experience training other Marines through fitness. So during that time of, trying to come home and take care of my dad and spend time with family, when I did get out of the Marines, the first thing I did was open a gym. I really didn't know. I actually started training people in parks to try to get enough money to open a gym. And I found a 12,000 square foot indoor skate park in Moon Township. It was called B Cubed. And it was run down, closed up for years. And I went to the owner and I said, I want to make this a gym. And I was 21. And he said, yeah, if you can tear down the skate park and clean up the space, you can have it for whatever you want. I was like $1,000 a month. And he gave me a time frame, which was completely undoable. But me and my brother and my buddies all tore down the skate park. And in the end, we had a handshake deal. If I did it in time, I could have the space. So with no money, I had a 12,000 square foot warehouse CrossFit gym space. That was my first job, technically.
Let me stop you. So there's already, as I told you, folks, the loyal No BSers is going to be a great show. You're in the Marines, tragedy strikes, you come home, try to come home as much as you can. So you shorten your stint. How long were you actually in the Marines?
I actually ended up going to the reserves. So I got put into the reserves from being in the Marines, and I, spent time here, went in different trainings and everything like that. But my technical term was still 3.5, 4 years, but it was mostly on the reserves.
And while there, you started training other Marines. Talk a little bit about that, because it sounds like that might have helped you to get an edge on how to be this type of fitness person, trainer, open a gym, everything like that.
Yeah, I was lucky that the people that train you before you go to boot camp, they're your recruiters. Mine was a crazy, super in shape guy, and he inspired me. So in high school, I was a lineman. I was probably 260, 270. And I went in the Marines at about 160, 170, and it was not that long after.
Wow.
And he got me in really good shape, and I knew football and training and fitness. And actually, he recommended, he's like, you should go become a personal trainer during this transition. And when I went to the Marines, I was in really good shape. And they're like, oh, you're in good shape here, do this. And I got the experience of learning a bunch of different stuff and, being the what they call a guide at boot camp, and somebody that, they give a little bit more responsibility to. And then throughout different things, I went to different trainings and in different bases and things like that, where they were like, oh, you're in good shape here, do this. And before you knew it, I was in charge of workouts and trainings, and they spent a little bit more time on me. And that's where I got to learn the basis of what I believe in fitness, which is move more, body weight, be very just basic physical fitness. And that translated to our gyms. Our gyms it was a big open space where we got turf from a gym that was closing, put it into our space for next to nothing. And we had a turf floor in a gym that, when you look at what it is, or what it was anyways, especially at the time frame 2012, it was unbelievable. We didn't know what we had at the time. My only business ever was closing that gym.
Well, when you tell that story, I want to delve into it a little deeper. So this owner of this facility basically kind of wants to get free work from you because he sets an unrealistic deadline. What was his deadline? If you can do it in a month or 6 weeks or something like that?
A week and a half, 2 weeks.
So he basically tells you, if you can tear that apart in 2 weeks, I'll give it to you for whatever price you want.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that if you didn't get it completely done in 2 weeks, he would just said, see ya.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this guy's that's a little bit shady.
He's in jail right now.
Okay. All right.
For tax evasion.
So how in the heck did you and like 2, 3, 5 other guys do that? Just walk me through that. It sounds like an intense week and a half.
Yeah, we actually have pictures. It's kind of cool to see like half the ramps down, half the stuff down. But just my one brother, Joe, who's my older brother, and then my oldest brother, Mike. They both helped me and my friends and family and people we knew. And then we actually found a company that was like trying to open a skate park somewhere in PA, and they came in and took like half the ramps and wanted all that. So we got someone to take the ramps out, the big ones, and then we just demoed and cleaned and painted and, you know, did our best to just tear this place apart. And then when you look like before and after, it's insane. And I mean, I'm talking like 12,000 square feet, one big open warehouse, looked like an airport hangar, and it was just massive and long. It was the airport ice arena. It was above ice rinks. And yeah, it was insane to think that we did it. We really didn't think about it. And then before you know it, and I was training people in parks and different places and, you know, building a brand.
So talk me through that, because when I think of the Marines, I have a biased view just from pop culture. So you hear about the Marines being the tough, basic training and how they do that. You're saying that in the Marines, you actually learned some unique training that probably wasn't just being done in gyms across the country.
It was being done, but it was just a different perspective. It was like, you know, they had kettlebells and body weight, and they were like combat conditioning, and I got to do a bunch of different things, and I was unique that they let me do certain things. And seeing that, and then getting trained by this guy before I went and then after, and just fitness was always a passion. So being into that and seeing, you know, there's a guy, his name's actually Rob Shaw. He's like very famous. He has a thing called military athlete and mountain athlete, and following his program because the people in the Marines recommended that. And before you know it, I felt like I had a really good base of a certain type of fitness, and then CrossFit was getting big then. And it was kind of CrossFit-esque, but without the barbells.
So now you take this and you don't have any business experience. You and your brothers and friends tear up this gym. You now have a great price of $1,000 a month. But what you said, you got rid of all that stuff. You creatively found a skate park that wanted. Then you got some AstroTurf. Is this when you got the field turf? So now tell me how you afforded beyond the field turf. What else did you buy to get the gym open?
Yeah, we made the sandbags out of duffel bags from the Marines and filled them with like wood pellets. I found a company that would manufacture kettlebells overseas in China and ordered them. It took a while to get here, but we got crazy kettlebells, which led to the secondary part of the fitness business, which was we had our own programming, our own kettlebells, everything else, because we learned how to order equipment, how to make programming. We got our programming. It was at Hybrid Athlete. We ran Kettlebell Cardio was the name of the classes and workouts. And that was the basis for our business going forward. And we had our own programming that got accredited by different, you know, companies in fitness. And we found really cheap. I mean, we spent $5,000 outfitting a gym that generated $50,000, $60,000 a month in revenue. And over time, we obviously added newer things. And then outside of the equipment, we just went online. It was like early Facebook stuff and marketing that I just had a knack for, I guess. And my brother, who's obviously the co-founder and kind of head of content at Fitt now, he was just naturally good at writing. And then I was super aggressive and crazy. I went door to door, had the cops call on me a bunch from just like handing out pamphlets and going to parks and just trying to meet people and say, hey, anybody that wants to work out, here's where we are. And before you know it, it was a pretty big business.
Now, how did you do the membership there and everything? What were the fees? Like, how'd you decide on that stuff since you're relatively new to this profession?
Luckily that people were doing it in CrossFit and other places, you could figure it out. And we wanted to be better and cheaper. So it was, you know, $75 a month, unlimited classes, just big turf space. We could fit 60 people a class. No other gym could do that. Yeah. And we really didn't have any. It's funny, MindBody is an investor in my current company, Fitt, and I was using MindBody back then, and 10 years ago, 8 years ago, at our first gym. So it was, really just making it up and looking up online and trying to figure out what people are doing.
You end up having this gym, and then you said you get to purchase more, open more.
Yeah.
Were they all under the same brand, or did you have different names?
Yeah, it was under the Kettlebell Cardio program.
Okay.
So we made if you want to be a trainer, you go get certified personal trainer, or you get certified in CrossFit. And we had a really cool program, which I still want to revive this business because it still makes sense today with how big Orange Theory and other things are. But we took a kettlebell and reinvented. Kettlebells were used in the Russian style, which is very hardcore. It was called hardcore Russian kettlebell training, essentially. And it's the way you use the kettlebell. It takes a lot of technique and training and preparation. And we found really cool, unique ways to use it that were very simple. And we made the name in the program Kettlebell Cardio, and then we started opening up those gyms where you would pay us a licensing fee and we would help you open the gym and set up almost like a mini version of an affiliate. So we own some of them, we license some of them, and we just started opening them up in other gyms and in other places, and small areas in different Midwest PA, Northern PA, Philadelphia, wherever. We would license, set up, open, do what we can. And we were growing so fast, and we were certifying people on the weekends and bringing in a ton of revenue, but we didn't know how to run a business. We didn't know how to manage taxes. We didn't know how to have legal. We didn't know how to have anything. And we were just making it up. And it just got to a point where we were burnt out. We never really, during that time also, my dad passed away. So my dad passed away, and we just didn't know how to run a business, and the burden of not really dealing with our dad passing away. And being young and having to take care of ourselves and my mom and everything else, because we were a close Italian family, we just kind of gave up. We sold off what we could, had someone took over the gym and the lease, someone did this, we handed everything, sold all the equipment that we could, and just kind of really shut down very abruptly. And that's what led to us creating the next companies, which was a lot of online content and marketing and fitness. My brother is a writer for Shape Magazine, Men's Health, other places, and me working on different projects with him, and trying to figure out online programming. There's the site Hybrid Athlete actually still exists today, and it sells programming, fitness workouts and programs, and it still generates pretty good passive income. And we went all online and then started doing stuff locally, and that's what kind of started the Made in PGH company. And Pittsburgh was originally Fitt was called. It was just us. We were sick of traveling and doing what we did, and we wanted to go online, so we were doing all of the online fitness marketing. And
so tell me about Made in PGH.
Yeah, so we created a local brand called Made in PGH, and it was, we live in Pittsburgh, where a lot of our friends moved away, but Pittsburgh was becoming cool. This was probably 2016, 17. Pittsburgh's becoming cool. It's really fun. We want to tell the story of restaurants and nightlife and all this stuff. And it was right around the time that Next Pittsburgh, I guess, started, and other things like that. But we were just good at marketing and site building and, customer acquisition. So before we had a few 100,000 people reading the platform, visiting on, Instagram and Facebook, and newsletters, and just content was great. And signed some really cool ad deals, and the Post-Gazette partnered with us, and then they ended up buying the brand, the company. So we sold that to the Post-Gazette, and that's what really funded Fitt. We transferred Pittsburgh to Fitt because Pittsburgh was the catch-all. We created the Yoga in the Square event that still goes on today. We were the first people to do that with Lululemon. We were doing that. We were delivering CSA boxes to companies. We were just scrambling. We were hustling. We were doing online stuff, that Hybrid Athlete online, consulting, anything we could as a lifestyle business to make money. And then that's when we realized it was so funny. We found out about startups, as I use the quotations, where you can come up with an idea and someone will give you money to make more money and test your idea. And we're like, this is nonsense.
I love it.
And because, we didn't come from a family that knew that. We didn't have alumni networks or anything. We just were like, actually it was Gary Vaynerchuk, if you know that is.
Yeah,
book.
Gary V. Mm-hmm.
I actually got to meet him afterwards. It was kind of a goal of mine. It was kind of cool. But I read his Crush It book, and I was like, this is absolutely absurd. It's I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at selling stuff. I was like, we got to make a startup. And we saw Pittsburgh, and at the time, Eater is big in New York and other places. Thrillist is a really big media brand owned by Group 9. There's something called The Infatuation, which is a really big restaurant guide writing thing. And we said, there's all these brands, Yelp, No Wait. There's all these brands that are where to find a restaurant, where to get to a restaurant, where to do this. That doesn't exist in fitness, even still to this day, which is why we're so, bullish on Fitt. And we're like, well, we did it in Pittsburgh as a joke. We called it Pittsburgh, and it was black and gold and fun. We're like, what if we took this and took it to other cities? And we called it Fitt. And in 2017, we launched Fitt. And it was, discover health and fitness around you. And we went from Pittsburgh to Cleveland to Boston to DC, and started selling ads and creating really good content and building a network of contributors. And that's when we got Bob Nutting to invest.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich with Anthony Vennare of Fitt. It's an amazing story. I had to pause just to let everybody have time to process some of this information because it's intense, it's exciting. He's now talking about Bob Nutting, the owner of the Pirates, and how you went and talked to him to be an investor. This is incredible stuff. It's talking about how important leadership, communication, and storytelling are, and also having the guts and the courage to go through entrepreneurship, because there's a lot of pain and anguish along the way, but there's a lot of intrinsic gains and, of course, a financial gain as well. So let's tell the Bob Nutting story.
One thing to touch on the whole pain and anguish thing. Yeah, it was, it's kind of crazy. A lot of people ask why I started a company. I was like, we had medical bills from my dad. It was kind of like, you have to make money. And I didn't have a degree. So I was like, I know fitness, I'll do something. And that's been the driving force always since. It was, you'd probably tell by how fast I talk, like nonstop moving, kind of like move or die type of thing. You kind of have to. And that same thing as Bob Nutting. I think it was, we tried to pitch local investors. We didn't go Innovation Works Alpha Lab way. We didn't feel the vibe of what they were doing. It didn't fit with us. But we pitched a bunch of people, and then they mentioned Bob Nutting. And we had just helped do the yoga in the outfield event at the stadium, where people did yoga in the outfield, Ohms in the outfield, and we helped promote it because we knew some of the instructors. Ohms in the outfield, and lots of people went, and it was just really a big event. And I know that when we met with Bobby, he was like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's really unique to see that happening at the Pirates Stadium. And we got to pitch him, and it was, I went in there full force as, here's our deck, here's what we want to do, here's the big vision. And
so wait, walk me through this now. This guy is a huge, wealthy individual, and I don't even know, is his office in the stadium?
Yeah.
Okay, so his office is
super
in the stadium.
cool.
So now tell me that whole story, because like that would make me nervous, and I do this for a living. So tell me how you prepped for that. Tell me the whole day. Like what time was the appointment? What time did you get there? Were you nervous? Go through that whole thing.
I mean, 3 years ago, I was 26, turning on 27, and my brother and I were just kind of like, is this real life? What are we doing? And it was just after really finding about the investments and startups, and we're like, listen, this whole family office thing was starting to come around, where these wealthy individuals invest in companies. And not to get into too much detail, but it was, him and his daughter in the family, and they're looking to invest in companies and fitness and wellness. And it's actually, a lot of our investors now are like sports teams or fitness based. They said, we're looking at this because we get it. We understand fitness. We understand wellness and sports. And we went in with a deck that said, hey, here's what we've done with nothing. From starting at a negative, obviously, with our family and having no money, we were able to build other businesses, and Pittsburgh has gone to Fitt, and Fitt has gone to these, and this is what we're doing. It's growing, the opportunity's there, and just gave it my all. I obviously was nervous, but same thing. It's like backs against the wall. You kind of have to deliver, and the pitch went well.
So you're pitching him on an iPad with a deck, or did you put it up on his video screen?
The screen didn't work, so I had to turn my computer around and show him, and it was just like a laptop, which has always happened. I never can get technology to work.
Does everybody hear this? There's a second person like me. Did you hear that, Marcel? Did you hear that, Maria? He just said that he went to, oh my gosh, he went to be Bob Nutting, and the technology didn't work.
And the sync didn't work, and I was pitching on my computer, turned around, leaning over the desk to them. But anything I've ever done now that we do more of the talking and speaking, presenting, or even companies and huge pitches and $500,000 deals that we're trying to sell, it's always gone better when there's a little bit of a mishap, because it calms everybody down. And I think my one skill is I can get people, my brother always jokes, when I get into a room, even the most buttoned up CEOs undo their tie and start swearing a little bit and calm down. And he was like, that, along with the technology never working and getting people off their feet, it always plays in my favor, because I'm not polished. Smart. I'm not presented. I didn't go to business school. I don't say things in the way that they do, but they always leave thinking he's crazy and I'm going to bet on him. The one thing I will say about Bob, him, as much flack as he gets for Pittsburgh and investing, he's a great guy. They've been phenomenal supporters. And more importantly, he's always been there. We've raised another round of investment and done a bunch of stuff, and he's been there. And the one thing he called me one day, he said, I have to say that I'm glad you're on my team, because you're exhausting. Even as a partner, I guess I'm just too much, too much too much trying to get after it. And it was just funny to hear someone as his stature and skills scale, whatever you want to call it. And
so
say,
when you exhausted him, is it that you texted him, called him, emailed him? What was your form of communication with him when you were starting to partner? That exhausted him.
It was always email, never call or text or anything, or meet in person. It was the in-person meetings. too much energy, too much fight, never going to give
Yes.
up. And which is what you want when you're investing in somebody, but to have that come, you like even talking deals or talking things, I'm just always so much, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from other people too, that it's kind of funny that but to hear him say it, and he was saying it almost like a fatherly way. He was like, you need to, sometimes when you're on the team with somebody, he's like, you need to calm down a little bit. And it's helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was always almost like a chip on my shoulder with everybody, even partners, even people that were on my team. And it was to hear that, I was like, oh, I get it now. And I really learned a lesson from him, like to, as much as you want to be that guy, you need to realize sometimes who's on your team and things are going good, even though like he's like, you got to a point, things are going good. Like it's not do or die. Calm down just a little bit.
Well, I have a passion problem myself, so it's good to see someone who makes my passion look subdued. But I get a lot of that because I tend to get animated and my voice raises and my hands flail. And so I'm sure that I drain entire people out. But I must say that you are at a whole nother level in a positive energy standpoint. I mean, I'm impressed.
But would you want someone that's not energetic that you're betting on?
Not
That's
at
what
all.
I always thought.
I agree with you. I agree
mean, when
100%.
having a conversation with you is different than like, oh man, this guy, like sometimes you talk to people like, do they even enjoy this? Do they even want to be doing this?
Yeah.
So I'd much rather be on the crazy side.
No, I'm with you. Like I had one time I was at a company and this one vice president said something to the effect of, I wish we could put super glue on his chair so his ass would stick there instead of running around talking to everybody, because we were doing a turnaround of a healthcare system, a hospital that had like 6 days cash on hand. And I was like you, I was young, your age, and I was running around going, let's fix it this way, let's try this.
Yeah.
And she made that comment to the chairman of the board, who comes back and tells me the same thing that he said to you. He said, I want that. But he probably didn't want me in the room saying it to him either.
Exactly. When it's coming at you, it's different.
Yeah. So this is impressive, though. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's just really a cool story. There's a number of things I want to just kind of unpack, but since it's a pretty cool anecdote, tell me the little anecdote about Gary Vee, because I mentioned Gary Vee quite a bit. I'm both ways on Gary Vee. Like sometimes I get frustrated because he just does these pithy kind of BS posts and so forth, and talks about live your passion, all that stuff. And I know that's not necessarily true for everybody, but on the other hand, I do believe he's hugely successful, and I think he's a really strong idea guy. So I'm just not. I'm being honest that I'm not the person that's the younger generation totally is bought.
Oh, I'm the same way as you.
Okay, all right,
Absolutely. And this is, so I actually paid $10,000 to go to his 4Ds course, which was and it led to, actually, I got to pitch the one guy that was his innovation team, and I got to talk to them more, and I met their team, and, I got to know the guy now that's at Rumble Boxing or whatever. And I think long term, I want to actually do business with him, but I'm the same way. But he even says that going at it, like, he says there's going to be phases where like what I say you outgrow me kind of thing. And I'm not an ego driven person. I'm not out there. I don't want people to know me. It was funny talking to some people and they're like, you're in Pittsburgh and you do this? I'm in Pittsburgh. My office is right down the street. I don't even know who you are. And I'm like, I just keep my head down. I don't want people to know me. I don't want to be out there. Like doing podcasts is the most probably I'll ever do. And I don't do many of them. And he's different. He's out there and he does it. So we're very different in that way, and I wouldn't approach things a lot of the way that he does, because yes, his story is great and he's a super successful guy, but he comes from a place where his dad, not even coming, like people talk about his dad's business. Yes, he did start with a place that had money. Not even that. I didn't even know you were allowed to own a company. I didn't even know. My dad made my brother go become a teacher because it has good benefits and a good retirement. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So even someone that's like, when you're young, you could do this, you could be your own way, you can make your own way type of thing, I think is worth more than starting in a family business. So there's just a lot of things we disagree on. Like anyone could do this, anyone could do that, or trying to be out there. But at the end of it, he is one of the most execution-driven killers of all time. His company, his name, what he does, his social, he lives it and he breathes it. And it's true. Like seeing his followers on different places go from 0 to millions, and his impact, and he's hanging out with these people, and like he's done it. So there's nothing you could say that he's done it. And
but we share the same thing. So you got to actually spend a couple of days with him.
It was
you paid to be in a session.
Paid to be in a session with him.
And how many people were in the session?
Probably
10 of you?
10 of us, I guess.
Okay.
And it was in front of him and there. And honestly, like it was funny when they came around to like, hey, what do you want to ask Gary? And I said, I don't want to ask him anything. This was the thing I told myself. I needed to. It was still the point where like, 2017, 18, running Fitt, I was I didn't know startup land. I didn't know New York. I didn't know this. And I was starting to go pitch VCs and get out there. And I needed my brother was like, you're going to spend the money and you're going to go do this because you need to get in front of him and realize he's just another guy. It was almost like meet your kind of heroes type of thing. He's like, he's just a freaking guy.
Yeah.
And I met him and I was like, oh man, he's just a guy and he's this way and this is it. Like, I was like, I could do this shit. And that was what led to me really kind of going off the deep end, as we say. Like, my brother and I always joke that we went off the deep end and there's like no turning back. And I got to meet him at that event. I actually got to pitch the one guy that ran like Vennare Beta, and we were trying to get him, and they introduced us, and before you know it, and now all the VCs that we wanted to pitch are now trying to get on my personal newsletter and my brother's podcast. And
wow.
Like they all open our email. The email, I write an email every week on the fitness business called Fitt Insider, business, fitness, and wellness. My brother's the host of the podcast. Thousands and thousands of subscribers that are the head of this at Equinox, the head of this at Exponential or Mind Body or wherever, and they all want our advice now. And it flipped so fast, and it was not anything other than the shift in my brain. Like, you can do it. Like, why can't you do it if they can do it? Because he doesn't have this crazy education. Yes, I could never be a lawyer or a doctor. Yes, I could never do this because of the training that's needed. But from if it's involving the hustle, the get it done, make it happen and build the team and lead people that way, if they could do it, I could do it. And that was really it was just a dynamic shift that really changed my life.
That's really impressive, and I love that your brother made you do that investment. I've found that anytime I've done anything like that, like I do strategic coach with Dan Sullivan, who's an entrepreneur guru. And if you've never checked out Dan Sullivan,
no, I never heard of him.
Check him out.
I will.
He's an entrepreneur, trains entrepreneurs. He's trained something like 50,000 over his career, but he does workshops that are full-day workshops in either Chicago or Toronto. And he has a full system in place of how the entrepreneur mind works. So it could actually probably help you at such a young age. I jumped into it just recently, and it's changed my life because I don't know if you struggle to take days off or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will help you. He has an entrepreneurial time system. Changed my life because I started just saying, I'm going to do what this guy says. So I'm impressed that your brother made you invest, and then you were amped up and did the whole thing with Gary Vee. So you do the Bob Nutting thing, but then tell me about how you started landing. Like, you landed UPMC. That's near and dear to my heart. I was there during the go-go years of like when we built a healthcare plan, built the sports medicine program. So I was in senior level marketing there. So anytime UPMC is brought up, I get juice. So you land UPMC. That's landing the advertising player and the fitness player in this region.
So they were our first client when it was still Pittsburgh, going into Fitt, like right when we transitioned. I met a guy named Scott Lammy.
Yes. Yeah. Scott's the man. He's been around forever.
Best person in Pittsburgh. He's
amazing.
He has given more to the city of Pittsburgh than any human being I've ever met. Not from just money, time, effort, attention. He makes you feel, whether you're, on the ground floor or you're the CEO, he treats everybody the same. One of the nicest people I've ever met. He's like, I'll get choked up. He's like almost like a father now because he's been such a great guy for so long. And we got him and they signed a great deal. Lots of money, paid for everything for us in terms of like, it was our first way to hire our first employee, do all that stuff. But I got to him same way as everyone else, same way as the Mind Body investment, same way as the Nuttings, just annoying people. Emails, calls, messages, and then when you do get that one pitch, you just leave it on the field. Some people are going to hate me. Lots of people don't like me for a number of reasons, but I'm there. This is who I am, and I go after it. And it's kind of like the Gary Vee thing. I learned a lot, but what I most learned from him wasn't even his systems as much as like he gave me, and that's what I think I was missing, was like the ability to like, oh, I can do this. And I'm lucky though, because I always say my brother and I combined are like one really good person. I'm not organized. I'm not structured. He's the COO technically. I'm the CEO. Okay. He handles everything: the hard work, the management, the pay, the structure, everything. I get to go and be the crazy one that's out there yelling and screaming and trying to get stuff done. And now after everything, landing UPMC, landing Mind Body, landing Kaiser Permanente, they're a client. They sponsored Denver, and
that's amazing.
For a company in Denver that I'd never even been to Denver. I sold them to buy the advertising rights of Denver before I was even ever in Denver, and it was calls and messages. And I think Joe and I tracked it one day. It was like 80 emails unanswered before they ever got back to us.
Dude, I just have to say, the courage and the persistence. I'm getting scared just hearing you say it. Like, I can't imagine, because I guess I have an ego. I can't imagine me reaching out to Denver and sending 80 emails about
And asking
Mass
them
Solutions, and you did that and you closed them. It's
for
incredible.
a multiple six-figure deal asking for it too, on unproven platform.
That's amazing.
And they signed on again, and we still have them as a client today. Same thing, UPMC, still a client. And you know, it's just you know, believe if you believe in what you're doing, what you're trying to do, then it works. And more importantly, I mean, I still keep the, you know, do or die mentality. Like, you have to do it. There's no other option out there. So that, and same thing with MindBody. I mean, MindBody had never invested in a company before. They were just bought by a private equity firm that doesn't do minority investments. No reason for them to partner and invest in us whatsoever. Got there. It was amazing. I don't know if you want me to tell this pitch. Talk about nervous pitch.
Definitely. Go ahead.
MindBody, a public company that got taken private for $2 billion plus.
Okay.
The biggest company in fitness. They were the missing piece. I wrote it down from the day one. I was like, we're going to get MindBody to invest or buy us. Because right now in fitness, like I said, there's no Eater, Thrillist, Yelp. There's ClassPass is the one people know, but they're like Groupon for health and fitness on a membership level. It's not good for studios. It's not good for the MindBody. It's not good for ClassPass. Everybody loses money, essentially. So it's going to change. It's going to go to business or change or just mess up the industry like Uber kind of did. And we want to be the people that change that. And outside of that, if you look at an industry like fitness that has grown so much over the past 5 years, we are the only ones in our category of discovery and content and information, the way that we do it. So the potential is massive. We're sitting on a huge opportunity. And the missing piece was getting MindBody's validation. We're technically speaking, my brother and I are just two kids from Pittsburgh. So to go and try to get VCs and partners, everyone else, they treated us that way. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get MindBody to invest. Worked my way up from like a random connection to this person, that person, all the way up to the president, who's the new president of a company that MindBody just bought, who's now the president of MindBody, and the CEO, Rick. And I got lucky enough that they're like, you can come pitch us. So I went out to San Luis Obispo, like a small surf town in California, in between LA and San Francisco. And this was 8 months ago. And still, I mean, I got there, they're all in their, 40s and 50s, if not older, and they're super experienced to run companies. And I was 29, and I was like, okay, here I go. So we sit down. My brother's with me, but he didn't say anything the whole time. It was awesome. Until like they look at him as like the adult in the room, and they're like, is he this crazy? And Joe's like, oh, well, hold on. Like, yes, but I'm also here. It's kind of funny. Yeah. But I got to pitch them, and within 10 minutes of the meeting, the CEO was just looking around, and he was like, oh, I get it. And it clicked, and that was it. And I was like, oh shit. And then I actually thought they were going to buy us, but it didn't work out that way from our side. We didn't think it was going to work out. So we then were like, okay, well, we want to work together. And they're like, yeah, we'll invest. And they're now, it's public. We tell everyone like they're an investor and partner. They're working with they're licensing our content. It's a really cool opportunity. And the biggest thing besides that, like, great to have their money, great to have their partnership, whatever, they validated us essentially in the industry. The check mark that we needed, the blue check mark on Instagram, we have it. Now that, and then my brother and I started last year. It's been 50 or 60 weeks of doing this now. Weekly newsletter, content on LinkedIn, and now a podcast about the business, fitness, and wellness. And the thought leadership and the way that we talk about fitness and wellness, and getting MindBody and others to be a part of the network that we have. Now literally people are like, you should start an investment fund. I'm like, oh God, this is nonsense. Like I obviously wouldn't, because it's not something I want to do, but it's just insane to think, 2 years ago, investors wouldn't even talk to me. And now they're like, hey, we'll give you money. You should start a fund. Well,
that's the question I have is, what do you want to do next? Where do you see things 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm. I think, and I wouldn't say this, I didn't think this until recently. I really thought Fitt was something I was going to sell off and just have money to do more cool stuff. But I think Fitt, in the way that we're going, the team that we have, and the platform that we have, is going to be the Yelp of fitness. Like, it will be something that, millions and millions and millions of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people use. It's the platform you go to. It's a thing that people use, and it's worth, $200 million plus. I think we have the opportunity to do that. So that's what I want to do. That and, Fit Insider and other startups and other companies. And I want to invest my money and other things that we can do with investors, but not from an investment fund side. I just want to help people start businesses in Pittsburgh. I don't want CMU kids. I want people like me. I want hustlers, people out there. I want to give them $5,000-$10,000. I want to be an advisor. I'm spending so much time with kids and students and people trying to get them to stay here and start companies here. That's what my brother and I want to do. And it's funny, we actually, Riverfront Ventures, which is like the side arm of that, is an investor because they know Matt Harbaugh. I don't know if you know who that is. He's an investor. Matt's one of the coolest guys. He's probably the only person that's truly leading investments in Pittsburgh. Him and Mike Green from Mountain State Capital, they're investors. And the most helpful, awesome people when it comes to investment in Pittsburgh, but the whole innovation work side of it. And Matt was even there as an employee. He was like their chief investment officer way back when. But just what they do and how they work, even saying this is probably not good. They're an investor from Riverfront. It's just not going to help companies in Pittsburgh, especially the consumer side, the marketplace, mobile content, media, like that all should be here. Why is it in New York and LA and San Francisco when it costs so much money when the same people are doing it here? And that's what we want to do long term, is help those companies, start those companies, invest in them, build them, and do it all, with people from here too.
What are the things that you think are the roadblocks that are in the way? Because you're known for getting through roadblocks and getting through obstacles and barriers. What are some of the things that are in the way of both things? One is getting your company to be that $200 million leading thing in the industry, and the second one to help Pittsburgh. What are the things in the way of those two where you could use some help? Maybe Mass Solutions can help you, or we know people, or we can all, because it's some of the things you're saying I've talked about on the show before. Like when I walk into someone that's helping another company, and we have 20 different organizations that do that kind of stuff in Pittsburgh, and they're all altruistic and they're all for good intentions. But when I talk to them and I say, well, give me a success story of someone that came to you and then they became this, let's talk about it. And that's harder to hear, those success stories. And I hear a lot of the small ones like you described. Well, we helped this one to get to this level. And so I'm with you. I'm not like bashing anybody. I'm actually complimenting, because they are altruistic. They are trying to help grow the region. They're trying to help entrepreneurs who are struggling and don't know some of the basics of business, and they have an idea. But I think there are better ways to do it. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get people. There's a lot of people that are trying to do different things now, hopefully. And what happens, and we've kind of put a roadmap together. First thing that needs to happen is there needs to be access to capital, no questions asked. $5,000, $2,000, $10,000, a grant, whatever. Someone to start something. And then if you fail, just give them another $5,000, because they were out there doing it. Like, there needs to be small access to capital and notes or whatever, and not the $25,000, but you have to go through our program and do this and all this stuff. And like, I think their term sheet's like 20, 30 pages long. It's not even as long. The raising millions of dollars in the term sheet's not that long. Like, it's stuff like that. That's the first one. And then also, there needs to be a connection between the big companies. There needs to be a million Scott Lammies. Why? I don't have GNC as a client right now at Fitt. We're working on it, and luckily we got to them finally after years. It was funny on the call. I was like, I've sent carrier pigeons, blimps. I've done everything to get to you, because the new brand officer was like, why aren't we working with you? I was like, I don't know. Tell me. I've tried my hardest to get to you. Dick's Sporting Goods is not a client. We've worked with retailers and companies and brands and agencies all over the world, and we don't have them, and they're up the street. I went to in high school. Dick's Sporting Goods is like 10 feet from my mom's house. Like, it's just crazy that those big companies, and that's everyone, not just them, the PPGs, why aren't they investing in companies? Dick's Sporting Goods should invest in us, hands down. We have millions of people using Fitt and seeing our brand out there in the world, and all about health, wellness, and fitness. GNC should invest in us, partner with us. That happens in New York and LA. You can get a meeting, even though they didn't go well sometimes. I could get a meeting with Catalyst Ventures, one of the biggest investment firms out there. They'll take a meeting. People around here, they're just that old school mentality of like, you're not good enough, the gatekeeping, that's holding the city back. And then just the atmosphere of like doing it, talking to people. Grab a beer. Everybody wants, and this is really disgusting to me, in Pittsburgh, like you ask someone for help, they want equity, they want money, they want time. Just help them. Like, yes, you need to get taken care of. If that's part of your job, obviously, I won't ask you to run ads for me for free. But if I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? Can you make an intro?
Absolutely.
Make the intro. Yeah. Like, people don't do that around here. Right. They want to be on your board. They want equity. They want a stake. They want to hold it back. Like, I'm not going to name names, but we actually, under the name Pittsburgh, we participated in a small little, we almost or kind of participated in an incubator. And it was still like we were delivering food. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just looking for anything as like a side project. And, we were there and we said, hey, to the people that were running it, can you introduce us to this company? We were at what was, back then supposed to be their incubator. Hey, can you introduce us to this company? And they're like, oh, no, we can't. We want them to sponsor the incubator. I'm like, in what world is that a real thing? That's like Y Combinator not making an introduction to somebody, or Techstars not making an introduction to somebody. It's insane.
It's amazing that when I hear you talk, I've been saying these things for quite a long time, and you bring up someone like Scott Lammy. I always respect Scott because he was navigating and thriving in an environment that is very competitive within UPMC, and then in this region, he's always been the stand-up guy. Guys like you and me sometimes ruffle feathers because we blurt things maybe too much and stuff, but we still get things done. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, like, I know I've said the speech you've said way back when I was your age, and I just have always been frustrated with that mindset of Western PA, and I do what I can. I do what I can. I talk about it. I try to hire people that are the way you're describing. I try to be that way myself, and I have my flaws. I'm not perfect, but I just get frustrated because that is the region. We do still have that kind of just everything you described. I relate to, and I've actually said that speech or rant in the past.
And even like just it's not just about startups either. Like he might have been on this. John Malecki, was he on this podcast?
Yeah,
John's a good buddy of mine. He is killing it.
Is he?
Furniture, like content, everything he's doing. How has nobody that's been in the furniture game or done production or done anything been like, hey, John, like, here's money, here's this, here's that?
He's amazing, and I felt that when he was on the show that he needed someone to invest in him significant. So because he's awesome.
He's a star.
But
he's doing it now, kind of.
I just always thought if he just didn't have to worry at all about money and could pay for this, pay for that, buy this, buy that, hire this person, hire that person, because he is a master at it, man. Like the guy, and he's a badass.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's people like him. My brother's girlfriend, Courtney Powell, owned a shop in Lawrenceville called Kinsman. She did some work. A lot of work was technically called a co-founder at Revtown Jeans. Someone like that. The fact that she isn't, given a job and brought onto a team or funded. If I had the money, I would just give her money and be like, figure this thing out.
Yeah.
There's a kid that works for us. His name's Kevin Rupert. He's our head of design. Same thing. Like, how has no one written him a check? If you look at our brand and our stuff now and look how great it is, it's because of him. And you're like, oh, here it is. Here's money. Go do this. You're that good. And that happens everywhere. Like, it's that type of stuff, that belief in that. Like, and if you fail, everyone's so risk averse here.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid to blow stuff up. Fitt should be a company that's worth $100 million already, but the atmosphere of Pittsburgh and surviving off that dollar and not getting enough money and slowing down and roadblocks, it's just got in the way. And now we're over it, and we're glad to kind of make our own way, but it's that type of stuff too. And I love the city of Pittsburgh. I'm from here. I don't want to live in New York and LA and San Francisco. I don't want to make that move. And it's very upsetting to me, especially when you look at, yes, come from a poor family, my dad and all that stuff, but there's a lot of people way worse off than I am. And I guarantee a lot of them could be killer entrepreneurs and business owners and job creators and all that stuff. It's just they didn't go to the right school or have the right family or connections. And I think Pittsburgh needs to really change that, like raise everybody up and let them start their own way and make their own business. And that's what I'm hoping we could kind of change. And that's why I am on podcasts and talking to people now. It's because I've stayed behind the scenes for so long, and I'm just like, all right, we got to start telling people and kicking the old guard out from a perspective of whoever's controlling the investment money and everything. We have to tell them just to retire, take your $500,000 year salary or something like that, and just get out of here.
It's a no BS approach. You're an inspirational. When I hear this, I'm fired up, and I'm looking at things that I've put off of my risk aversion, and I'm saying, like, this, I've got to listen to this and move forward. So I'm glad you were a part of this podcast. I'm glad you're passionate in getting that out there, because it is an inspirational story. It's an impressive story. You had the courage is the big word that I see. Like, you had the courage and the tenacity to take rejection and keep plotting because you believed in your vision. And that's really what we talk about on this show a lot, is leadership and communication and storytelling, and you kind of knock all three out of the park. So I'm glad you were on. I'd like to have you back as another guest.
I'd love to. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. And like I said, your setup here is really cool.
Oh, thank you.
It's awesome to see.
So we'll have you back because we need to break down and pick a bunch of topics. We can talk about Gary Vee. We can talk about Pittsburgh. We can talk about startups. We can talk about leadership. We can talk about people that are BS BS leaders, BS marketers. So we got a lot in common.
Love to. Sometimes I feel like I'm that crazy guy in the coffee shop just yelling at people, or like out on the bus or something, because I have so much that I want to say about that, and you got to find the people to talk to. So yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the show, and to our loyal No BSers, thanks for listening to another episode recorded here in our studios in bold, beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea, and build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.